I am Frank Vaughn. It is September 22nd, 2025, and above all else, I try to be an honest man. I don't pull any punches. I get involved in the things I want to get involved in, and I'm honest about those things. Now, there is a zeitgeist. I would argue there's even a mass formation psychosis going on right now, and of course, nobody recognizes it. Nobody ever recognizes what mass formation psychosis looks like while they're in it and while they're participating in it. Listen. There's a lot of people, a lot of influencers online, virtue signaling that they are blocking Candace Owens. So I'm just going to take Candace Owens off the table. We're not even going to talk about Candace Owens. We're going to talk about everything else when it comes to Charlie Kirk's blatant public assassination. Ballistics, folks. Ballistics don't lie. It's so simple. That is the exit wound on a great big animal from a shot from a .30-06. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who have gone to the gun range and they've shot guns and taken pictures of themselves and posted it online to basically virtue signal that they are into guns, but they have a fraction of the experience I do with shooting firearms. Not that I'm the most experienced one in the world, but I can tell you that this magic bullet theory, similar to the JFK magic bullet theory, where there's one lone gunman, and one bullet has to be used to explain all of the wounds. There is no way on God's green earth, no way whatsoever, that a round from a .30-06 shot from 160 or 200 yards would not blow the side of his neck completely off. And it certainly wouldn't look like an exit wound, which is what we see. They're arguing that a round from a .30-06 didn't exit soft cartilage. It's retarded. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm using that word. I hope I don't offend anybody, but it is. It's insulting to our intelligence, and it absolutely demonstrates that there's a whole pile of people who would consider themselves alternative media. They don't even know how to ask questions. And they don't even know how to, Paramount Tactical, I believe is the YouTube channel, did a huge live stream. All kinds of ballistics experts coming in and talking about this very thing. But you don't need to be a ballistics expert. You just need to be an expert in size. And I got to get rid of my second head here. Above me is a list of common rounds shot from various firearms. I have a lot of experience. Oh, you can't see my mouse. So fifth from the left of the screen, 7.62 by 3.9. I have a lot of experience shooting that round. I have experience with almost all of these rounds. But 7.62 by 3.9 is a round powerful enough that you can put it through a fence post, blowing out the back of the fence post and into concrete, and it will bore out a hole. Like, it'll blow out a hole in that concrete. It won't go all the way through the concrete after going through a fence post. But it'll go clean through a tree, like with a 10-inch diameter. I've done it. I've seen what it can do. What you have to understand is that fifth from the right is the .30-06 round. It has a lot more powder. It's a far more powerful round. And they're trying to tell me this story that Charlie Kirk has bones of steel. Even if somehow you accept the fact that the bullet came in and ricocheted off his collarbone and got stuck in his neck, it doesn't make any sense. There should be blood splatter. The bullet should have passed straight through that tissue or blown the side of his neck completely off. And it didn't. And it just didn't. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you about it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend. A lot of conservative influencers, and it's disgusting to me, are just a bunch of group thinkers. They just go along with whatever the mainstream narrative is on the right to promote themselves, their brand, whatever products they're selling. They don't want it. They're addicted to their fame. They're addicted to the following. They're addicted to their business model. I don't have that problem. I don't have a business model. I just have a thinking mind. There's no way in hell. And if anybody says otherwise, you know their quality. I'm not saying they're in on it, but you know they're afraid to ask questions. And it's not surprising because many of these same people who are supposedly members of the alternative media sit idly by and call the complete leveling of the Gaza Strip an operation against only Hamas. The killing of children, they just shrug off. The ethnic cleansing that is going on, they deny. It's very clear what it is. You can support it. You can make an argument in favor of it. I can understand that. But don't be a lying douchebag about it. Say what's actually going on. The erasure of several million people, the herding of them into a concentration camp, the complete leveling of their enclave, what was left. I'm not an anti-Israel guy. And the order of this is a spoken word. This is a stream of consciousness, trying to get things back in order. Things are starting to come around here. I do have some anecdotes that are a lot more soft that I want to share, but I'll save them for the end. I'm not trying to link Israel to Kirk's assassination. I don't know who killed him. I don't know who killed Kennedy. I just know there was a whole pile of people who had an interest in doing it. Charlie Kirk was the leader of the youth movement on the right in the United States. There is nothing like the passion of youth. There's an old saying, and I'm very fond of it, which is that wisdom is wasted on the old and youth is wasted on the young. If we could give the youth wisdom and they had their lives ahead to build on it, man, this is the dream of every good parent. And also our greatest challenge, because there's an instinctual resistance to wisdom built into the young, and I was no different. No different. Now, I was right about some things that I needed to change generationally, which I am still working on. I'll probably be working on until I'm back in the ground. So it's not to say that youth don't have something to offer in terms of improvement on the previous generation's thinking. There's a ton of value there. There's also value that goes the other way. But I digress. Listen, getting back to the point when it comes to these assassinations, there's a lot of vested interests. There's a lot of people who benefited from the work that Kirk was doing, and he threatened a lot of organized power bases within the deep state and the bureaucracy. So you can have a conversation. You can speculate, which is what it is, about Ukraine. You can speculate about Israel. You can say that Netanyahu, and I think maybe this is the issue that many people have with Owens, is she's too... her implications are too firm. There's a very good reason at this point in time for Israel to want to distance itself, officially, the government of Israel, not the Israeli people, but the government of Israel. You need to understand that the current government of Israel isn't exactly universally popular, that the Jewish people themselves have a lot of criticisms from Netanyahu. But setting that aside, they're in the middle of a vast expansion of their power in the region. It's been going on for a couple of years now. Lebanon, Syria. Wouldn't surprise me if Israeli troops are in Damascus before the end of the year. We'll see. It might take a little longer than that due to public relations. The invasion of Gaza. Again, I'm not arguing about justifications. I'm just talking about what's actually happening. Israel is becoming the ultimate power in the region. They're very expansionist, and it has angered many parts of the world for various reasons. Canada, fools that we are, have joined the UK, which is also in a death spiral. We've joined Australia, which is also in a death spiral. These are probably some of the worst governments in the world, and we're racing at this time to recognize the Palestinian state, something which, if you're a realist, if you're a pragmatist, is never going to happen. We're beyond that now. The Israelis are leveling the place. They're getting ready. They got plans for redevelopment. They're going to take all those people and they're going to put them in concentration camps. The Palestinian state is gone. Whether you support it or not, whether you're in favor of it or not, whether you're brave enough to call it what it is, whether you're one of these people, it's disgusting to me. And this is what I think Charlie Kirk wrestled with in his life, is that if you're a noble man, if you're a Christian man, even if you're not a Christian, if you just have a sense of decency in you, you can't shrug your shoulders at heavily armed military personnel, even shooting rounds and herding people like cattle into these centers. You can see them. They're emaciated. They're not looking very good. Bodies piling up, unarmed people getting shot. I I don't know how people can just shrug their shoulders. Are we like the idea, every excuse that I get is that every single Palestinian is a Hamas member, that every single 2 and 3 and 4-year-old that dies is irredeemable because of what Hamas does, as though Hamas is somehow the most popular force, as though there's no Christian diaspora that lives in Palestine that's suffering the same fate. You see, I don't have that ability to just shrug my shoulders. I'm not some godless neocon. Maybe it's because a lot of these influencers, they don't have children. They got no skin in the game. They have no idea what they're talking about. They can't be honest. And this is what Kirk wrestled with. So there's this neat little story where the Israelis killed him. And people can speculate on that. That's all it is. Netanyahu's actions since the assassination can be very easily explained, just as easily explained, as Israel trying to distance itself from something it didn't do, because it's very aware that anti-Israeli, not anti-Semitic, which they like to label it, is criticism of the Israeli government as criticisms of Jews in general, which couldn't be further from the truth, because there's millions of Jews themselves that are critical of the Israeli government. It's so weak. It's low-hanging fruit. It's disgusting. It's intellectually dishonest. It's spiritually dishonest to label people and label their concerns away. At any rate, it makes sense from that point alone that Netanyahu would be out there in front, especially considering we know there was pressure on Charlie Kirk to alter his message from his big donors because his operation required a lot of money. And he was saying some pretty real things about Israel and the timing. He gets shot. Maybe they just don't want to be associated with it because they've got a plan they're trying to implement, this Greater Israel project. They've got a big expansionist militaristic plan. They've isolated Iran. They've destroyed Hezbollah. They've eliminated their enemies. And they got more work to do from their perspective, the government of Netanyahu and what they're trying to do. They've got more work to do from their perspective. The last thing they need is the entirety of the American public turning on them, which is why they might be in the midst of a huge PR campaign, because without the American empire, Israel's in a worse position. I think there's a lot to be said that there's a lot of vested interests that are very interested in controlling the narrative post Charlie Kirk and controlling his movement and controlling and steering it in a proper direction. And I think you see these interests competing with each other. And I don't think it necessarily indicates one way or another who did it. But the story that we're getting currently, first off, is incomplete. If you guys just go and you watch, I've been doing this a lot myself over the course of time. This is just an example of a YouTube channel that I watch that actually scares the bejesus out of me. Where's my other camera feed? Scares the bejesus out of me. Explore with us. This is just one channel of many. But it explores the psychology of people who do horrendous things. And there's a lot of them. You see, you can't learn the nitty-gritty details of how toxic and horrible and terrible people can be just by reading mainstream news or even listening to your average influencer. You know, this channel, I mean, it's only got 6.95 million subscribers when you think about that worldwide, or even just the English-speaking world. It's not that big. But if you want to learn what people are capable of, this is where you go. But for the purposes of what I'm trying to discuss today, compare and contrast the level of investigation that goes into any one of these, where law enforcement is overturning every single thing to get to the bottom of it, and compare and contrast it to what we're getting currently, I'm not saying it's not going to change, from the FBI about the blatant Kirk assassination, which is what it was. I'm convinced the killing shot came from the right. I think all of the evidence, all of the ballistics evidence, the evidence of my eyes tells me that. Again, around that big doesn't just stay in your neck. At that range, it would have blown a hole right in the side of his neck. There's no way around it, folks. It would have passed right through. There would have been blood splatter everywhere. It would have been this, and we just don't see that. And I'd like that explained. There's also all the other issues surrounding Tyler Robinson, where he was, the Dairy Queen photo, which everybody's going through, planes. There's all kinds of speculation. Again, in my mind, these are early days. But what's happening? There was a beautiful outpouring of support and emotion for Charlie Kirk yesterday and since. But this gathering, it takes the kindness and the empathy and the ideological support for conversation, free speech, all these things that so many of us value, became a focal point. And everybody spoke, and it was a huge memorial service. And it was beautiful to see. But can you not see the seeds of mass formation psychosis? Can you not see the seeds of channeling all of this energy? Like a sorcerer drawing in all this energy to channel it in a certain direction. That direction is the targeting and disruption of the far left, which has been reigning supreme and running wild over all of us for over a decade. It's just been getting worse. You see, this is where people like to individuate instead of including all of the various elements of truth. What is truth? What is true? It is true that there is a radical, far left, anti-common sense, anti-creation, anti-evolution, anti-science, crazy people who believe in gender unicorns and believe that there's such a thing as a transitioning child, which is just nothing but a business that's worth a lot of money to people who have no morality whatsoever. And if you don't, I think normal people with emotions, people with empathy, people who are capable of understanding the sanctity of childhood, people who are capable of understanding nature, have a really hard time understanding how easy it is for a certain single-digit portion of the population to engage in the most immoral, aberrant behavior because they don't feel it that way, it doesn't land that way. The only thing they're interested in is the pursuit of money and profit and power, and they don't care who they kill and damage in the pursuit of that. You need to understand, if you're good and pure of heart, that your enemy looks like you, talks like you, smells like you, laughs like you. Oftentimes they smell better. And yet they are completely dishonest. And again, that channel I just showed you, explore with us. You go watch a few of those videos and you'll learn. You'll just learn what people are capable of through this interrogation footage. You need to arm yourself and prepare yourself. Not everybody in the world is honest. And you can't go around paranoid, worried that you're going to run into liars everywhere. You have to treat with people, but your brain always has to be reasoning with what you're seeing. Your eyes are your greatest collector of evidence. And my eyes, when it comes to the Kirk assassination, tell me that we're not getting a straight story. There's no goddamn way a 30-06 round just stays lodged in soft tissue. You see, I'm not stupid enough to believe that. It defies credibility. And I think all of the influencers out there who are virtue signaling about just burying this thing and putting it away, they got the guy, don't ask any questions, we got to move on, the far left is the enemy. And you see, that's the thing. I actually agree that the far left is the biggest threat happening right now. These people are in control in Canada, and look what they've done. There's 2 million people in this country who are, I shouldn't actually say that. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in this country who are willing to go out in our streets, burn the Canadian flag, chant death to Canada, smash university windows, target Jewish businesses, shut them down, people who haven't done anything, and the government of Canada rewards them. And why do they do that? Because it's big business here in Canada. Hamas, Hezbollah, laundering money, the cartels, all the things that we've covered on this channel, the truth of the situation. We reward the bad actors in this country because the far left is in control right here in Canada. And if you don't think it's far left, if you don't think Mark Carney's far left, if you don't think the Liberals are far left, the litmus is simple. If you think giving puberty blockers to little kids is normal, I'm sorry, but you've lost your compass. You are far left. If you think not just puberty blockers, but they should have hormones, you are far left. And that's just scratching the surface. If you're one of these people who went online and celebrated the Kirk assassination and called for more of it, there's something wrong with you. So yes, the far left is a problem. Now, I don't know if the powers that be and good people on the right, they see the Kirk assassination, they see the seeds of the far left in it, because look, that's another thing. Those text messages that Robinson sent to his gay trans lover, I mean, this kid's a smart guy, Robinson. Great grades, very smart, talented. He was able to, if you accept the official narrative, he was able to plan this assassination alone and in a vacuum, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, you've got snippets, ring cams, and you got him getting picked up by somebody. Like, there's more people involved. There's far more to this story, and I really hope Kash Patel and the Trump administration get to the bottom of it. There may be explanations for all of this, but we need them, and nobody should be shamed for wanting them. Robinson was a smart person by default. We know that. The evidence tells us that. And yet the first thing he does when he's on the run after committing this, like, he changes his clothes multiple times. There's all this going on. But he texts all the details of how he did it, which completely, to the word, support the narrative that we're getting. Who would spend time talking about that via text? Delete these texts? Are you kidding me? Like, and maybe this is a misunderstanding of my own. Are people just not aware that in this world that we live in, privacy is a construct that you create? It's not guaranteed. You don't have privacy on your devices. You don't have privacy on social media. You barely have privacy in your own house anymore. If you want privacy, you have to create it in individual spaces, because as soon as you walk out your door, you don't have it. Shit, man. All through pardon my French, but I'm getting a little bit heated about this. You're walking through a public forest. How many hunters have got cameras up? Trail cams. There's cameras everywhere. I was walking, it wasn't long ago I was walking and I ran into a trail cam, posed for some pictures of it. Nothing you do, and then when you get into towns and you get into cities with ring cams and security cameras, 50 million cameras from 50 million different angles, privacy is not something you have. Other people's microphones can pick you up. We have the audio from one of the ministers in the government talking about the gun ban, which we should get into. Maybe we won't get into it today. Maybe we'll get into it tomorrow. I don't know if everybody's aware of what's happening there. But this gun ban and gun confiscation program that the Liberal government is foisting on law-abiding people, it's not doing anything about all the illegal handguns in the city streets. It's not doing anything about cartels. It's not doing anything about crime. It's just screwing with people who have no criminal records. I mean, geez, you can't own guns in this country and be a scumbag. It's you have to literally turn scumbag after you get them. Otherwise, you're not going to get them. And that's all they're doing. They're fiddling with people who are obeying the law. Meanwhile, everybody else, criminals are turned loose. People who molest little kids. We just had a man who got a reduced sentence for doing horrible things to a small child because he was Native, and we have to consider the socioeconomic, racial background of the man. You know, punching a little kid in the face, raping a little kid, that's not enough to say that you're evil. You're a victim too. It's really effed up. That's why I say the far left is in control in Canada and is the ultimate problem that we face. But that doesn't change any of the underlying. And I just see a race to circle the wagons, to engage in groupthink, to ignore the questions, and to move on to the next chapter, which is the dismantling of the far left, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I just think some things are getting lost on the way. Antifa's a terrorist organization. So is the Anti-Hate Network here in Canada. These are really bad people. They would they would stop at nothing to do violence to you if they thought you were a fascist. And who's a fascist? Anybody that disagrees with them. I mean, it's insulting to the intelligence. It's insulting to morality. These people have had enough of a run now. They've burnt down enough city blocks. They've committed enough violence. They've engaged in enough political and innocent assassination. How many times do we have to have these nut jobs cropping up, shooting people, doing violence before we actually do something? So I think that's the road we're going down, and I think we need to go down that road. We need to recognize this toxicity, and thank God that I live in Western Canada, that I live in Saskatchewan and Alberta, where this stuff is not as deeply rooted. It's here. Believe me, it's here. But we are not as far gone as BC or Ontario or Quebec. Complaining again, Quebec. I wish they'd just summon the courage and leave this country. But we all know that Quebec doesn't actually want to leave. They like the welfare. They like having a nation at their disposal. I mean, who wouldn't, right? But I just, it brings you back to why the Western provinces, which are distinct societies, so very different in character from the rest of this nation, why they're still going along with this rotten confederation, which doesn't give you any genuine God-given rights. All of your rights can be suspended at the stroke of a pen. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a piece of trash, where you have police that actually make public statements that say, look, if someone's in your house and they're trying to kill you, just call 911. Don't defend yourself. You should probably just sit there and die. That's the right thing to do. This country is stupid. It's a dumb country. Not the people, not the land. Although a lot of the people who support the system, this federation, are themselves demonstrably dumb. I'm talking about the federation. I'm talking about the system. It sucks. It's dumb. It should be dispensed with. It needs to be reformed at the very least. And I really, I see Polyev getting some balls talking about agreeing with Trump, that Antifa should be banned. He's agreeing with that. Find your balls, man. Find your courage, because we're going to need a lot more of that. If you really want to save this country, and I support anybody's efforts, my opinions are pretty firm about Canada as a system and as a construct and what needs to happen. But if there are individual politicians out there that still want to save it, I'm all for supporting their efforts. Go ahead and try and save it. But I'm telling you, there ain't a single person anywhere out there in a position of power and influence that's gone far enough yet to talk about the big, massive scale of the problems. I think these ideas would be very popular if we just talked about them. But I digress. I've probably gone far enough for this video. I don't care who likes it. I don't have any sponsors to satisfy. I don't owe anybody anything. Somebody said to me yesterday on Twitter, just a tweet, because I've been quiet. I've been quiet for several days for my own personal reasons. Said that I owe, and it's just a passing comment. This, I know you're probably going to watch this, and this isn't like an attack on you, whatever. It just, they said, Frank, I think you owe us a video. I think it's just an indicator that they were missing me. But I'll tell you all something. I don't owe any of you anything. I don't owe anybody anything, and that's why I can talk and speak freely. Even if you do choose to donate and support the effort, which is going to go on. The effort doesn't stop because there's gaps. I warned you that September was going to be a gong show, and it is. I have things I have to sort out. You're going to see them sort out, because as the hair grows back, because I'm absolutely growing it back, there's no doubt in my mind. I miss it. It's annoying right now, but it's growing back, and as it grows back, you're going to see a change come over me. It's going to last for a long time. I've also spent, with my kids and my wife helping me, time starting to set up the alternative set, which is behind the computer screen, because I love the green screen. I'm going to keep the green screen. But when I convert to streaming more, or I shouldn't say convert to, when I add streaming or I do things, I want an actual set. And the thing about having a set, it could take me months to pull this thing together, is I don't want it to be full of pretension. I want it to be real. I want it to be actually usable space. I don't want it to just be a place I go and sit and stream. I want it to be a space I use. So that's kind of challenging. It's going to take time to assemble that and put it together. It requires reorganizing and doing all these things. But on a completely different note, for those of you who actually care, the friends in the community, and this is completely separate from everything else. It's just a thought on the miracle of human experience. And I guess for some it can be a nightmare. But little tiny things happen in the world that change everything. In your world, I should say, not in the world, in your world, in your experience, lived experience of this earth, your perspective of life. There's little things that occur that if they hadn't occurred, nothing would have issued forth from that moment. In my life, in particular, what I'm talking about is I just spent a couple days parked on my butt reading my father's journals, which are very special to me. It just happens to be on my desk. It's not an intended prop, but this was his Bible. And he put a lot of personal anecdotal documents and things, and periodically I go through it. There's an old British pound. There's a bunch of stuff. There was a American dollar bill that he kept for each of the kids. I got my sister's. She's no longer with us. But I keep a journal myself. And you can see this is my current version, but my dad's journals are some of the most valuable things I have. You want to talk about monetary value? There's no monetary value for what my father left me. And reading through those journals and really thinking on it and then teasing out my own memories, just to piece together. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a 45-year-old man. I've lived my life to this point. I've been here for the whole thing, right? Everywhere I've ever been, I was there for. And it's very hard to actually put together on a month-by-month basis where I was and what I was doing all the way back to my earliest memories. About 5 years old. 5, 6 years old is kind of the cutoff. I don't expect to remember much before that. There's a couple of memories, but I've never felt the need to fill it in. So for years now, I don't know, every so often, maybe once a year, I do this deep dive into my past and I review material that I have about Dad and my own notes and I just try to piece together where the hell I was and when I was there. And it strikes me as almost miraculous that, as Jordan Peterson once said, that the lights even come on every day. Because we can't even successfully remember accurately our own existence, let alone someone else's. But anyway, once upon a time, late 1997, I was 17 years old, off doing my own stupid things, and my father just happened to go to a wedding. And there he met a woman. And if it wasn't for that chance encounter, nothing would have issued forth from it. And that's not even the most important chance encounter. The most important chance encounter was my father meeting my mother. This was a whole different marriage. But from that chance encounter one night in November of 1997, my entire life was formed from that point forward. I didn't even know it. I didn't even start to understand it for another 7 or 8 years until things materialized. I don't even know if that's accurate. I don't think I understood it until I'm now 45, when I finally feel like I've completed the effort of reassembling my own timeline in my own mind, so that I know exactly where I was going back all these years. But it's crazy. If I don't end up where I end up because of that chance encounter, I never meet my wife. Now, I never would have met my wife if it wasn't for a bunch of other decisions that I had nothing to do with. In 1994 or 1993, someone was building my current home. I had no idea. If you had told me, even at 20 years old, listen, man, you're going to end up buying at the low bottom of the market, which I didn't even know, you're going to end up buying a derelict farm that was built in 1885 You're going to end up living there for a while. You're going to rebuild your life one beet at a time, one onion at a time. You're going to solve your problems. You're going to do all these things. You're going to work really hard. And then you're going to meet this woman. You're going to have a couple kids. And then you're going to decide to just drop everything and move to Saskatchewan without even looking back. You're just going to, you've never been to Saskatchewan before. The first time I entered the province, I was here with all of my stuff. I'd never even physically seen my house that I live in now. I just said, you're crazy. None of that's going to happen. It's even crazier. My wife and I had this conversation the other night about, if it was her at university age, because she's much more educated than I am, if she had have been told that this was how her life would have worked out. The crazy thing is that, and we were both talking about this, is that if somebody had have told us that this is how things would have ended up back then, if there was a time traveler who came back in time and delivered to us the information about our future, we would have been on guard and done everything in our power to avoid it happening. Oh, this life that we've built with our family and everything that is just so pure and happy and innocent and secure and in all the ways that matter, everybody's safe, respectful. It's just a really good family dynamic. And we're both ultimately very happy with our family situation. We would have done everything in our power to avoid the outcome. Anyway, I know I don't think that kind of conversation leads anywhere, but I find it fascinating how infinitesimally small the chances of your life working out the way that it is actually are. It's 1,000 different pinpoint experiences that all had to happen exactly the way they did for you to end up where you are, whether that's good or bad, because we're not talking about a universalist, pathway to happiness. I'm not trying to sell that by any stretch. It's just, it's interesting. And I just wanted to share that thought experiment. And this segment's already over a half hour long, so I'm going to cut it off there. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to try and focus more on what's happening here in Canada and going over some of the things there that I've missed. But to just go back to the beginning subject matter, my eyes don't lie. Ballistics don't lie. There's something more going on with the Kirk assassination. I hope we get the answers, because it's not done yet. Investigation is not closed. It hasn't just been opened and shut. My concern is that all the energy and momentum was built up to the memorial. And it kind of felt like a closing door, like it's all done. The only thing we have to do is go forward from here with a mission to dismantle the far left, which is a noble cause. Don't get me wrong. But we shouldn't shut the door on exactly what happened. You see, there's, again, a lot of people are just batting for the home team. It's interesting watching Canadians contort themselves into holding this pro-national Canadian view while at the same time trying to be pro-Trump. It's pretty tough. You see, I don't have that problem either. I can criticize the Trump administration, and I have. We have the Epstein stuff, okay, which has completely disappeared off the radar. I'd like answers on that. We have a history of weird things happening in the United States, from the JFK assassination, Bobby Kennedy's assassination. What were they doing at the time? Who shot them? What interest shot them? 2 planes, 3 buildings. I mean, there's a history of obfuscation. And the Trump administration, its current iteration, I should say, is not tested yet. It's not battle tested. We still have to see what Patel's going to do. There's a lot of good things happening in the United States. I genuinely believe there's a sincere effort to get America's house in order. The immigration problem, the illegal immigration problem, the crime problem, the drug problem. I mean, I think Trump and his team are very sincerely interested in disrupting the main practices of the deep state. But there's a caveat. Certain things aren't exactly being treated honestly. Certain things have disappeared from the conversation. And we can speculate as to why. My hope is that the quest for actual, definitive, sensible, timetable, real ballistic data, proof of what happened to Charlie Kirk is not one of those things that disappears. I'm Frank Vaughn. I will see you in the next one.